This is Next Steps for Seniors with your host, Wendy Jones. Each week, Wendy brings resources and information to help guide you through those next steps with elderly parents and loved ones. If you have questions or topic suggestions, you can call us at 248-651-5010.
Hello and welcome to Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, and as you all know, each and every week we do everything we can to bring vital information as we age. And this podcast is really designed because of one that I just had last week. And it was with a senior, and we had a full conversation about retirement. And to be honest, this particular gentleman decided not to retire because he had worked his whole life and he felt like it wasn't right for him. And it brought us to have this amazing guest today because you do need to rewire retirement. And that's our topic. And our guest in the studio today is Cyn Meyer. She's an author of Rewire and Retirement Method. She's a certified life coach with a passion for making the best out of your retirement years. So how are you, Cyn? Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yes, we're excited to have you. I got to say, this retirement topic has been repeated in so many different ways, and so many people think about it so differently. Some people start planning at the age of 50, and they're all set to go by the time they're 65. Some people just in a second go, okay, I'm done. And they just like throw in the towel and stop working. I mean, there's just so many different ways and so many different options, right, as we age. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you because this is your wheelhouse, and so much so that you designed this method.
Yes,
so I love
exactly.
It.
I love it too.
So
yes.
tell us a little bit about, how what this method is, the retirement method. And I think we can start with, we all compare ourselves like we just talked about. Like what's good for somebody is maybe not good for another.
100%. It's just like the way you choose your family life or your career itself. It's so different from one person to the next, right? And so retirement is the same. You are an individual. You're here to share your unique gifts and, ride your own journey in your own unique, expressive way. And so when it comes to retirement, my whole mission is based on flipping the stereotype that it's not just about financial preparation, and that's what retirement planning equals. And it's not just about living a life of leisure only and settling down and winding down. I'm like, no, it's actually time to wind up, spiral up. Some people live longer in retirement than during their career years. So there's so much more to experience and grow and evolve and, get that juice out of life and, come here, do what you came here to do.
So why do you think people are so fearful of it then?
Because of the stereotype, right? So we're trained to only financially prepare for retirement. And it's like, okay, that makes sense from a monetary only standpoint. And then there's that stereotype where it's like, oh, okay, it's time to just slow down. You go from go to slow go to no go, right? So it's like, no. So it's all about rewiring, literally. Like we love leveraging neuroplasticity and the fact that you can create new neural pathways in your brain until the day you die. And so we are prone to this fear because of that stereotype. That's clearly not suitable for everyone. So it's about discovering the intrinsic motivators. So for most of our career and family life, we are trained and wired to do the extrinsic motivators, right? So career, success, achievement, family, money, right? And that works super well for that stage. And then when it's retirement, it's very much an intrinsic motivator time to let that come to the surface and gain clarity on that first. And that's what most people just skip over because we're like, oh no, it's just time to do this very traditional volunteering or this very traditional leisure only life or the senior center. And that's not a fit for everyone, right? So it's let's get in here, do the intrinsic motivators, and then boom, it's like game on once we have that clarity. So there's a lot of identity shift happening, role shift happening, so much of this invisible layer by layer below the financial part that we're not addressing, but we're feeling mentally and emotionally. That's where the fear is.
And that's why you're here today. So I'm so grateful because we need to talk about these things. There's so much more that we're just not even coming close to. So talk to us about this, the external versus internal, and what we can be doing internally to make a difference.
What we can be doing internally to make a difference is to just be curious about our insides. And kind of what I always like to suggest is to prod. So it's less about the answers, like when someone's asking, how's retirement going? That like brings up a lot of anxiety for people, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're like, oh, I'm not working anymore. I'm not feeling accomplished or purposeful anymore, right? And so it's like, So it's really about connecting with self and going inward and really being curious about your new passions in this current phase, who you're growing into, what lights you up from the inside out, what audiences you care about, what connections you want to have in your life, what experiences, and what, things you want to share and all that. So it's really a systematic way to do this is to just prod your insides. And the best way, the easiest way, free way is to journal, right? And just get curious about what literally excites you and energizes you, and dream without limitation or expectation or even trying to make sense of anything that comes out, because that will get in your way.
And don't let the financial component enter in, or do you let it? Because a lot of people don't dream because they dream too big and then they think, I'll never be able to do that.
Right. They think they're dreaming too big, which then makes them dream too small because of the limitations. So I love saying...
It's hard though.
It is very hard. So that's why it's very much a personal, just get curious, like wonder about it without pressure, and do it consistently for, I always suggest 14 days at least, but my program's 3 comprehensive months. So imagine all of this beautiful, authentic, organic information that will come out if you were to do this day after day for, 3+ months.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. So it's very much, I always say, like, dream without limitation. What would you do if you had 0 barriers in the way? 0 financial barriers, 0 physical barriers, just like dream and fantasize as big as possible. And frankly, the how is none of your business, right? If we start to, we're trained to
It's a good way to look at it. I like that.
Right? Because then you start to think like, oh, how am I going to afford this? How am I going to get this audience? How am I going to, and that poo-poos the answer, like the answers, the real dreams.
And do you find, logical, analytical type people probably struggle with this because you're
100%.
really using creativity. You're really expanding. You're like thinking big, really.
Yes.
And not putting the logical component, analytical component on it.
100%. Yes.
Ooh, it's kind of fun.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so journal, that's the first step. And what other steps, so to speak? Identifying your purpose and identity, lining up. Isn't that a big component?
That is a huge component. I have found that the number one thing that people struggle with is that purpose piece. So it's as if you're exerting so much energy into building career and family life, that phase, and then that energy goes floating up when you cross that finish line and retire. And if you don't direct it somewhere very clear, it directs itself into typically symptoms like depression and anxiety and that retirement rut, right? And then lack of motivation, lack of purpose, lack of energy kick in, right? So it's very much a gaining clarity process. And so purpose is one of the 5 rings of retirement. So I have a framework called the 5 rings, and that's one component. So a lot of people come to me and they think that they're missing like this one like purpose,
big, huge
right?
thing. Yeah.
Yes. And I love to just kind of put in the idea that it's like your retirement life is going to be a multifaceted, colorful, robust retirement life made up of many different facets with their own cadences, right? So it's not just one thing. It's going to be a mix of many, many things. Even in that one of 5 rings of retirement of purpose, where you're giving back and sharing unique gifts, that in and of itself can have several different activities and their own cadences and their own engagements and different audiences and formats, right? So that is a big one for people for sure. And I just like to kind of break it up into more of like a portfolio mix, like a diverse portfolio of life experiences so that so it's less black and white thinking. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I talked about, I mentioned in the beginning that I had a gentleman who was a senior on the program, and one of the big things he found purpose in was giving back to the next generation. So he plans a trip with his grandson, just him and his grandson. And it was so precious. Like he was getting tears in his eyes just talking about this time that he gets with his grandchild. So I'm assuming that's one of your 5, components that what you talk about.
That's a combination of 2 of them. But yes, so that was like him leaving legacy, sharing his unique connection and gifts with his grandson. So that would be like one facet inside of giving back. And there's also community as another ring. So that's your relationships, your engagement in the community, even with your spouse and, your family. So that's the other one. And there's a lot of crossover there. And so that's why it's important to just like, when people try to like analyze how many buckets, which one am I filling? Am I going to fill this one void? If we sprinkle it into like a multifaceted, you strip it down. It's like, what's energizing to you? Right?
So we're going to talk more about what's energizing you in the next segment. So you're listening to Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back to Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging. We are here today with Sin Meyer, author of Rewire and Retirement Method. And what a wealth of knowledge she is. We do not need to be fearful of this time in our lives. It can be exciting. It's new. It's rejuvenating. And we need to look forward to it and plan for it, really, right, Sin, is what you're saying. And the solid 3-month time period that you talked about in the first segment, I think is a fantastic idea, just to really open yourself up to what it is. Dream big, right?
Yes. Dream huge. Dream huge. Yes. So go
ahead.
I was going to say in my program that is 3 months, it's like I walk people systematically through the 5 rings of retirement in months 1 and 2 to gain that clarity. So I give every question, prompt, exercise, etc. And then in month 3, it's about going from outer action to inner action. Inner action to outer action. So you're probing the insides, and then you have this clarity, and then you do the outer action. And so it's literally rewiring that brain and leveraging that so that you have that momentum and you keep going. Versus, oh my gosh, I don't have a plan. Not everything's perfect. I don't have all the steps. I'm not going to make any moves, right?
Right. And most people just say, I'm going to travel. Okay, well, travel to where? Do what? What do you want to see? Where do you want to go? How are you going to get there?
Right.
Okay, right. So tell us a little bit of the 5 rings. I know we talked about 2 of them.
Yes, we talked about, finance is one of them. Okay. So we talked about giving back, and that's where the number one challenge is, where people are wanting this sense of purpose, right? So that's sharing your unique gifts and helping an audience that you care about and expressing in ways that are really you and you're lit up from the inside out. And then there's community. So your relationships, your spouse, and then the community at large within, wherever you live. And then health. So health is not just physical, it's also mental and emotional and spiritual, right? And then growth is the first ring. So that is just getting on board with the fact that your brain is designed for growth indefinitely, right? I mentioned earlier that you can create new neural pathways in your brain until the day you die. So that means you are designed and set up for lifelong learning and expansion. So we're meant to grow, expand, evolve, change, develop indefinitely. And then finance is the 5th. And that is, in my book, literally, the sole purpose of finance is to fuel your life in the 4 other more enriching categories of life.
Okay. So interesting enough, though, you did say something that really caught my attention, because when you're talking about these, I kind of would love you to share an example, if you can, of a story.
Yes.
Of how, like when you said health, like what's an example? Like, of course, we want to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And if you're not already, what can we be doing? Is that kind of what you're saying when you talk about health as an example?
When I talk about health as an example, it's just one facet of life that we want to gauge. So the 5 rings of retirement are like a litmus test. So I always ask people, gauge your energy from 1 to 5 in each of the rings. And so whichever one has the lowest, a 1 versus a 5, which is like the most energetic, that needs your attention the most. And so rather than spread your energy across everything at once, it's about just like going exactly where your attention is needed first, knowing that things are going to ebb and flow throughout.
I love it. I love it. And what do you find to be like the most popular of the 5? I'm just curious.
Most people...
Meaning the lowest, I should say.
Lowest would be the giving back because of the huge role and identity that work life provides, right? Mm-hmm. It's our sense of accomplishment, our sense of being productive in the world and contributing. So that's where people come up blank the most.
Interesting. That is interesting. And what about the top one? What would you say that is?
The top.
Yeah, you said the number 1, like the worst would be giving back because they don't.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But what would be the best? Like finances? Like they're most prepared for that?
Yes. Okay. It's the most concrete. It's black and white.
Because that's what everybody thinks about when they think of retirement. It's just the money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So like 99% of retirement advice is financial advice.
It is.
Right? Yeah.
It is. It absolutely is. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about actionable steps that we can take instead of just going on autopilot, right? Because everyone's different. Doing the same thing everyone else does is not what we want to do. Is there anything outside of the goals, the dream journal you talked about, the 5 different things? Just share anything else that we need to know. We've got 5 minutes left in this program.
Okay, so actionable steps would literally be a mindfulness practice to go alongside with going inward, whether that's journaling or through my program or anything like that, so that you can just heighten your awareness of what energizes versus drains you, right? Instead of getting in your head, this will help you stay in your body. So like bottom up. It's something that we're used to doing. So that would be the other thing. So mindfulness practices, a lot of people love meditation. A lot of people love walking. A lot of people love exercise. Anything that literally drops you out of your head and into your body, because I have found that typically people are starting to question and have these fears, and they stem from the motors in the head, right? Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure out the fear of the unknown, right? Like all these things that are very heady. So mindfulness is a really good actionable step that you can take to nicely complement that inward journey where you're, exploring the thoughts and ideas to heighten your awareness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can you give us a story, like how this would work in real life?
Yes. Okay. So I always say there's like 2 classic types of people who are like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I going to do in retirement? So one type is a successful go, like chief executive, head of a big department or business owner. So they go from busy, like high achiever to totally open structure. And they're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Who am I? I have no purpose. I'm like a Ferrari stuck in a barn. Money's not an issue. Senior center's not for me, kind of thing. And then the other type is classically like someone who overgives in their career, like maybe like a nurse or a really dedicated educator, or even like a caregiver, or someone who's been running the household. And so when they enter retirement, it's volunteering is not for me. Like I'll hear a blanket statement like that, right? So in both cases, there's stuckness. Right? What am I going to do? Or like I'm wiped out and the 2 classic things are not for me, right? So in both cases, stereotypes are not for them. So while everyone is different, the process of gaining this clarity and really getting in connection with authentic self and like getting lit up from the inside out and creating this vast, diverse portfolio of things that are meant for you is the same. And the outcome is wildly beautiful across the board. So it's writing books, starting an acting career, starting a side paid passion project, dancing, acting, painting, like classic.
Playing an instrument, maybe.
Playing an instrument, yes, so beautiful for your brain. Climbing mountains, being the best grandparent, consulting, right? It's so, we don't want to poo-poo any ideas. We don't want to block any of the opportunities, because what people unlock is like amazing. And the whole purpose of this movement is to continue that positive ripple effect. So yeah, one person's success is going to cause another person's success, and it's so diverse and needed.
What's your take on couples doing this together, if they're married, husband and wife, or do you think it's better to do it individually?
I love that question. So it's much better for each person to do their own growth journey, path, exploration, etc. And then the couples have their activities together. So it's really nice when one spouse does their inward journey without incorporating anyone else, because that's truly like the most authentic path. The other spouse does the same, and then they have their couples activities together. And, whether that be like travel, family, creating a nonprofit together, any of that stuff. It's just nice to have that discernment so that you truly know like what excites you wholly.
Right, right. I love how big you dream. I can already tell, because you said starting a nonprofit together. Like, I gotta really believe that not many couples have sat down and said, let's start a nonprofit together when we're, 68 years old, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love that, though. The knowledge, the wisdom. But people, I hope they do, but there's so much knowledge that you've gained throughout your life. Why not start a nonprofit?
Yes. Yes.
But I don't think people think that way. I think they're like, oh gosh, that sounds like too much work.
Right. And then the how gets in the way. And yes, completely. Yes. No, it's so feasible. Yes.
Right. So in closing, dream big, journal, really go deep and be very mindful.
100%. Yes.
I love it. Any other last minute thoughts?
If you want any support or a systematic approach to this, you could just reach out to me. My material is here for you for that one purpose of helping you live your best years in your retirement years with purpose and passion. So
share your information with our listeners so they have it.
Yes, thank you. So secondwindmovement.com is my website. And then there's tons of content there. I have a YouTube channel. My book is on Amazon, The Rewire Retirement Method. And then on my site, there in the top right corner, there's a masterclass that's free. So anything and everything, your own pace, how deep, fast you want to go is there for you.
Okay. So just to repeat, so everybody knows, the website again is secondwindmovement.com. So definitely check her out. Sin is a great author, Rewire and Retirement Method. Look up her book. We are grateful for you. Thank you for the knowledge. We do not need to be fearful. We need to embrace it, enjoy it, and dream big. You're listening to Next Steps for Seniors, Conversations on Aging. And remember, the next steps can be the best steps.